calm down. Mama, I'm fine, don't worry. Go back out to sea, sail home, sweet home, where the ships must go to get all cleaned up and put away.
Welcome.
Hello and happy Friday.
Hello and happy Friday to you, sir.
How are you doing today, Caleb? Sorry, let me say that.
My phone is blowing up.
Oh, you're just getting tons of messages? All right, let me say again. How are you today, Caleb?
I am well, Dakota. How are you?
Glad to hear. I'm doing pretty well as well. It's the end of the week. It's always nice to just end it on a nice, fun live stream. Then we get to go home and enjoy our weekend.
Sweet. Sorry, I'm going to try and airplane mode my phone. Hang on.
Wait, that might... Maybe not airplane mode, but do not disturb us. Oh, no. Did he actually put on airplane mode? I sure hope not. Well, this might be my...
airplane mode. Airplane mode is on. Wi-Fi is on. Are we good?
Okay. All right. Yes. Yeah. I can hear you. Hopefully,
all right.
You won't get any more distractions.
Sorry. I literally just had somebody calling me 5 times in a row, unfortunately. And I'm so sorry if that is somebody that needs to talk with me right now. I apologize. I promise I will get back to you if you come across this stream. You're like, why is that? Why isn't he picking up the phone? Well, welcome Dakota. Hello, everybody. Sorry for such a long, drawn-out introduction. I'm Caleb. I'm an advocate here at Golf Advocacy. Dakota.
I am Dakota. I'm also an advocate here. You've probably seen me doing shorts for our Facebook page. Or you've seen
and Dakota is not short.
Well, you can't tell when I'm sitting down.
Yes. Well, today is Q&A. Welcome, everybody. Hello to those who are watching. Estella, happy Friday to you. Thanks for commenting. Appreciate it. Ms. Venus, hello to you. And you guys know the drill. Today's Q&A. So any question that you have, we would love to try and address and answer as best that we can. Mind you, we don't have all the answers to everything. I like to think that I do sometimes, but it is just not the truth. And I know that I figured that out pretty quickly when I hang out with Dakota because he's a lot smarter than I am. But anything related to IHSS, Regional Center, benefits here in California, we would love to chat with you about it today. You're also welcome to let us know what's going on in your life. If you want to share anything, any successes or challenges or all the above, we'd love to talk with you about it. Hello, Anna. Thanks for being here. Dakota, we already have a question. Do you want me to go ahead and pull it up on the screen?
Let's do it.
All right. Miss Anna, can IHSS hours be reduced when my child starts school?
Well, okay, I can take this. Now, there's 2 different ways that you could... that you might mean when you say start school. I'm going to answer both. One, if what you mean is they used to not be in school at all and now they're starting school for the first time, they could reduce some IHSS hours due to alternative resources. Basically, if there are IHSS tasks such as bowel and bladder care or meal preparation or feeding that are being done while they are at school, then they could reduce the hours for that. Now, if what you mean instead is it's just the beginning of a new school year and your child has been going to school, then those things were probably already calculated into your hours already. And I think they just do the average across the whole year. So I don't think they're supposed to send out another new notice of action as soon as the school year starts and then a new one when it ends and back and forth. I think if you've already been in school and then they just started the new school year, then it shouldn't change. I think the reduction would already be in place. But if they're starting school for the first time, then it could get reduced for alternative resources.
And it's usually not a whole lot. That's been our experience so far, or at least mine. Dakota, I don't know how you feel about it. I know sometimes, I think on occasion we might see something where it's like, ooh, that's a really big chunk of hours, but most of the time it's like minutes per week rather than hours. But I don't know. Have you seen anything different in recent years?
No, like you said, it would usually be a fairly small percentage because it's usually going to be at most, let's say if it's like feeding, it would be one meal only some days of the week. So, it should be like far below half of your authorized hours in that category. Or bowel and bladder care, it's probably, a percentage of the number of times they've used the bathroom over the course of a week.
I agree with that. All right, we have Miss Estella. Quick difference between guardianship and conservatorship. I can probably take this one.
Sure.
So, Estella, guardianship versus conservatorship. So really, every state has their own like family law, estate planning terms and all that stuff. So here in California, we have conservatorships, limited conservatorships. And so guardianship isn't necessarily like a term that we use often here in California, to my understanding. I could be wrong, but a conservatorship and a guardianship could be very similar or one and the same, depending on what state you're in. So like certain states don't call it a conservatorship, they call it a guardianship, but it's the same thing that we have. So we might have a conservatorship here that allows you to be a conservator and make decisions for somebody who's conserved. And then a guardianship can kind of be the same thing, but they just call it something different in a different state. So here in California, the way that we use the term guardianship, to my understanding, is usually for people who are fostering or adopting, who are trying to, go through that legal process of having that person be the decision maker in their life. But that would be my quick, as you requested, quick difference between the two. All right, Miss Penny.
Talking about like just being a parental guardian.
Yeah, and so again, most of the time, I see it a lot when people move to California, who reach out to us and they say, "Hey, I'm from the South, or I'm from the East Coast. We're coming here. We want to start learning about the benefits. I'm the guardian of my adult child or whatever." And then come to find out that they just didn't call it a conservatorship in that state, and it's the exact same thing or very similar. And so that's my experience with it. But Estella, if you want a more, I'd say, detailed answer, because you asked for a quick answer, that would be my quick answer. You can absolutely connect with an estate planning lawyer or a family law attorney, and they should be able to break down the differences for you here in California, at least. Hello, Penny. Thanks for the comment. Miss Janet, hello. Thank God it's Friday. Hello to Caleb's puppy, too. How did you know he was here?
Sitting right there. Should we avoid saying the name? Say his name. We don't want to excite him.
Yeah, well, I do have an earpiece in, so he can't hear nothing, but I can avoid saying his name. Honestly, he doesn't even care about his name being talked about. It's the other buzzwords,
Other
snacks,
words, okay.
Treats.
They'll say hi, Cheeto. Everyone say hi, Cheeto.
Anna, he is starting kindergarten. He does need bladder care. So what's interesting about that, Anna, is so to my understanding, being potty trained is kind of a requirement for certain public school districts, depending on the age, unless the child's going into like a special education environment or special day class. But yes, if the child's requiring support in the restroom while at school, and they are also approved for bowel and bladder care through IHSS, then IHSS does technically have the right to refuse that column and reduce a little bit of the time.
Like we said, it can be a whole lot of it.
Yeah, but it's usually a small percentage, like Dakota was just saying. All right. Miss Carrie, hello in Dakota. Thank you for all your help and support. Thank you for being here, Carrie. Janet, when the child is on school break, can we request more hours? We kind of touched on that. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more, Dakota?
Yeah, I think that goes to a little bit to what I was saying before about, I'm pretty sure the way they're supposed to do it is that they calculate it across the whole year, taking the breaks into account. I believe that's how they handle it. You might want to double check with your social worker or do the math on your notice of action to make sure that is accurate. But I think that they do it that way so that they don't have to keep going back and forth on the hours throughout the year. Because I don't think it's typical for them to have to issue new notice of actions during the summer and then another new one during the fall. So yeah, I think that's already calculated into the amount that they reduce.
And before we forget, if you can like, love, share, tag people in this stream, that's also a very big help to get some more questions in here for us to talk about, and for people to learn about these programs that you're trying to learn about as well. It's a big help for us and a big help to those who are trying to soak up this information that we share along with what you share in the comments. And so all the more reason for you to share any knowledge that you have as well. All right. Thank you, Dakota. Janet, do you know if the Pathways program is coming back in Los Angeles? I'm not too sure exactly which Pathways program you're referring to. Is that an adult day program? Dakota, have you heard of Pathways in LA?
Well, I asked Teresa to look it up, and I don't know if she was able to figure out exactly which one it was either, but there's a couple different things that are called Pathways. So if we could get some clarification, she could probably look up and see if they are, if there's any plans or any news about them coming back, whatever it is. So maybe just get a little clarification and we'll find out.
Hi, Sarah. Jessica, is the subject back to school?
The subject is whatever you want it to be.
That's right. That's right. It is Q&A. It's subject today is your questions, right? We absolutely could talk about back to school stuff if you have some questions, Jessica. Tanya, IHSS is requesting the psychological evaluation and notes to confirm protect supervision for adult. Is that normal?
I mean, I would say generally yes. I mean, if you have those things, if they see a psychiatrist or would say psychological evaluation.
That's school.
Is that, well, that's psychoeducational evaluation is school. Well, okay, if they're asking for like a 5-year-old document to approve PS for an adult, that's weird. But if this is something that's fairly current and it's about their mental state, it's pretty normal for them to request it. They don't necessarily have to have it. But if it's already a document that exists and it's fairly recent, then it's normal for them to request it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Let us know if you have any further questions on that, Ms. Tanya. Oh, Dakota, this next question. Anna, my NOA shows 168 hours of protective supervision hours. I thought I was supposed to have 195 across the board. I know, pick me.
Go ahead. You in the front.
All right. Last time I explained it this way, you said it wasn't exactly correct. So I'm going to explain it the way that I have always been thinking about it, and then you can let me know more the logistics, the factual logistics of it, I guess is what you'd say. So Anna, every notice of action that approves protective supervision will show 168 hours in that column, because that is a weekly approved column. So technically it's 168 hours weekly. However, you can only get 195 hours per month to claim for that recipient to receive. Now, but what is the difference here? So to my understanding, if you multiply 168 times 4 weeks and a few days, because on the notice of action, it'll have like a little multiplication example. It'll say 4.33. That's the equation that they use. So if you multiply 168 times 4.33, you end up getting 720 something hours. If you divide 720 something hours by 30 days in a month, you end up getting about 24 hours in a day. So technically, protective supervision is a 24-hour need. It's a 24-hour benefit, which means 24 hours a day. But an IHSS recipient cannot receive, or a provider cannot get paid for 24 hours a day. Okay, so they end up capping it and prorating it to make it fit at the 195, and then they use, this is the part, Dakota, where you can jump in, the proration side, where they'll prorate like 45 hours a week or whatever and make it fit with the rest of the benefit. But that would be kind of the confusion there, and it's a very common question, Anna. So you do get 195 hours a month. On the notice of action, it's just saying 168 hours per week technically is approved, if that makes sense. Dakota, did that make sense?
Yes, I think that's right. I'll just add one bit. If we're talking, assuming we're talking about the notice of action that has every category listed and it's got the amount of time, it's got a bunch of columns and rows. The best way to know if you're getting the PS is that where it says protect supervision, you go all the way to the right side, and there should be a number that says 45 hours and 2 minutes. I think it's 2 minutes. It could be 0.2 of an hour, but whatever it is, it's 45:02. that is the weekly amount. And when you multiply that by 4.3, which is the average number of weeks in a month, that's where you get 195. I think the provider notice that you sometimes get separate from the notice of action, I think that will usually say 180 or 168. And that also throws people off. But yes, I think, yeah, what you said is accurate. And if you end up getting to the cap of 283, then sometimes your protective supervision will be prorated even below 195, but you're still at the cap, and so it's fine.
Yep. So what you're saying is I nailed it.
Yes, I think you absolutely nailed it.
All right, I got one. Okay, so Tanya's clarifying. She said it was the 5150 report. So you were right, Dakota. So the cycle evaluation, not a part of school. That's the educational, right? So Tanya, if like Dakota said, if it's relative to what's going on today, then it may be helpful for IHSS to request it. Like if they're just out of a 5150 hold or, whatever, then yes, if IHSS is requesting a document, it is kind of best practice to give that to them. But sorry, psych notes and 5150 hold chart, they want the entire chart. Yeah, Dakota, you can let me know what your thoughts are, but if, to my understanding, if a social worker is usually requesting something, especially if it's in recent past, not 5+ years old, like you said, then it may be something important that they're supposed to request, which, and then, you'd probably want to provide it.
What I'll say is that I think it's not unusual for them to request it. Now, you say they want the entire chart. If there's something on there that you find is particularly private that is irrelevant to the issue of protective supervision, if there's like criminal history or something that you just do not want to share with the social worker, I mean, I think it's reasonable to withhold some things. And if you have sufficient evidence that you do give them that shows the need for protective supervision, they shouldn't hold that against you. But it's not, it is pretty normal for them to want these things. And if you outright refuse all of it, that is going to look suspicious as far as the why you're withholding this information that is pretty relevant to the issue of protective supervision.
I agree. You're welcome, Anna.
I think I skipped someone up.
Oh, you did.
There we go. I'll read this one. My 4 children had their intake and annual review June 5th. Still have not received a notice of action. How long should I wait to hear from my worker? Ooh, June 5th. Now, you said intake and annual review. I'm guessing it was just the intake. Unless there's maybe one child was having a review and one child was having I don't know. But yeah, June 5th is quite a long time from now. And we actually did a video about this not that long ago where we say once you've had your assessment, after 30 days, you should be reaching out to them and finding out what's going on, finding out what's wrong. Past 60 days, which I think you're about at 60 days now, you should reach out again and let them know that if you don't hear from them, you're going to ask for a hearing. And once you've gotten to 90 days from the date of your assessment, just file for a hearing, because you're at that point, you are at risk that you could lose your due process rights if they end up denying you hours. So we call it the 30, 60, 90 rule. We made a video about it a little while ago. So yeah, right now you're about 60. I would reach out to them for sure. If you haven't already once, I'd reach out to them a second time. And then if you get to, the close to the 5th of next month, beginning of next month, I would say just file for a hearing on all of them just in case. And if they send you a notice of action afterwards and everything looks fine, you can withdraw the hearing, no harm done. But you just don't want to miss out on your right to argue your case just because it happens all the time. They'll say, oh, well, we mailed that out months ago. And then when you finally get it, you find out you're past your deadline to file for a hearing and you have things you disagree with. And the judge says, well, sorry, they mailed it out. They say they mailed it out and you must have just missed it. And so you can't have a hearing. That happens all the time. And so, yeah, if it gets close to that deadline, just file.
And speaking of this timeliness matter, Dakota, so I don't know if you saw the letter that we received like a week or two ago. It's of a family that we requested a reassessment for. We got a letter from the county saying, hey, we received your request for a reassessment. We know that we recognize there's been a change in the home. That's why you're wanting a social worker to come back out. However, we're busy and we can't come out anytime soon. Did you see that note?
I think I did. I think we had requested it like 2 months ago, and they said soonest we can do is October, I think is what they said. Is that right?
So we requested it a couple of months back, and then we sent a follow-up because we haven't heard anything. And then that's when we received the note where they were like, hey, we got it. All right, we got your request. You're on a wait list. Sorry. And so
like sometime between October and December was when they'd be able to come out, I think is what they said. Something like that. Does that sound right?
Which is when this person's annual review is supposed to happen anyway. So the whole purpose of reaching out to request a reassessment is because of a change of need, right? So what's nice, just for people to know, if there's been a change and you feel like your case, your child's case, your loved one's case is deserving of of additional hours or an additional category, whatever the new need is, if you submit a request for this and they come back to you and say, sorry, you got to wait 6 months until your annual, they have to honor that. They have to honor when you requested this change. And so that's what's going to happen here for this family. We can't push the county to do an assessment if they genuinely don't have the resources at the moment. If they're so backed up that they just can't move your assessment any sooner, then you will have to wait. There's not a whole lot you can do within reason, of course. But if this goes 4 or 5 months, then if their need is if their hours are increased, that has to go back to when you requested it. So anyways, just so everybody knows, the counties right now statewide are very backed up. They're very slow. The appeals world right now, if you filed for an appeal and you're waiting and you haven't gotten a date with a judge yet and it's been 3 months, just so you know, that is happening to almost everybody right now. So yes, there are like rules and regulations of deadlines and timelines, but it's kind of going out the window right now because of how many people are filing and how many people are applying, and all of the different departments are just swamped. So Estella says Dakota is great.
That's not what it says. I can read. I have eyes, which is why
Tanya.
I'm so great. But you have eyes too.
Oh, okay. So now we're back. Dakota, you may have to answer this one. Janet, can an undocumented family member become a provider?
Now, I'll say just based on how the question is asked, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure everything undocumented as like fully unable to legally work in the state, then no. But as I've discovered going through this whole like budget stuff, California budget, federal budget stuff, that there are a lot of different categories of legal and illegal and documented, undocumented, and unsatisfactory documentation. There's a lot of different categories, and so some may be able to work, but undocumented, I think that classification is not able to, I believe.
Yeah, I would agree with that, to my understanding of how it works. Can someone with schizophrenia get protective supervision?
Yes. Now it's not one of the easier ones to get. I think I've gotten protective supervision for a few different clients who had schizophrenia. I think just one of the difficult things is showing that if it's hallucinations or disorientation or bad judgment, to show that it like leads to unsafe actions is one of the difficult parts of it for schizophrenia, because it's not all I think it's oftentimes fairly well managed by medication and maybe doesn't present itself on like a regular basis. But yes, it absolutely is possible.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I have a couple thoughts on it too, Dakota, if you don't mind. So I agree to that. And in addition to that, schizophrenia is one of those conditions, diagnoses that is really understudied. Along with, there's not a whole lot of experts in that field who can give you like definitive answers on maybe the causes of it or reasons as to why they may have like with the world of autism or mental impairments, we say maladaptive behaviors, right? When you have schizophrenia, you have like behaviors. I don't know if they're considered maladaptive. I don't know if it's the same term, but kind of the same concept, where you have behaviors that are manifestations of the schizophrenia, right? And so schizophrenia, because it's not something as like tangible as like autism, right? Or even dementia. Schizophrenia is one of those things that I feel kind of, I feel like a lot of professionals are, I don't want to say skeptical, but they're not confident in the scientific answers and reasonings as to why somebody with schizophrenia might do X, Y, and Z. And so because of that, that translates to a bit of insecurity for the social worker when they're trying to assess for protective supervision, because it can be really difficult to gather sound evidence to try and prove when this person's lucid versus not lucid, right? And like Dakota said, hallucinations versus reality. And so, so one thing that I know that I've used when working with somebody who has schizophrenia is the overwhelming difference between when they're lucid and when they're not. Because a lot of times the behaviors of schizophrenia almost sort of go against the regulations in some ways, because schizophrenia a lot of the times can be very episodic, the behaviors that come with it, right? And so that right there, there's a regulation that states that episodic behaviors are not, reasons. Basically, social workers and judges will kind of use that regulation. I can't quote it for you right now, but episodic behaviors are not reasons for protective supervision, right? Well, when somebody has schizophrenia or a similar condition, a lot of their behaviors are going to be through an episode. That's how it's going to be described medically, right? So there's a lot of challenges like that when you're trying to obtain protective supervision for somebody with schizophrenia. It's nothing that Dakota and I haven't done several times before, but he's totally right. It is one of the more difficult cases to prove the need for protective supervision. So Janet, if you're looking for some help on that, feel free to let us know sooner rather than later. We would love to take a look at, whoever this loved one is of yours that you're trying to help. And we'd love to try and, provide our 2 cents if we can.
I'll say one more thing about that is I think one other difficulty, and I've run into this with a lot of people of that age range, is that I think since schizophrenia is a mental illness, right?
Mental illness, yeah.
Term, yeah. But it is one that tends to appear a little bit later in life, but not quite to the elderly range. So it's like something that appears when you become an adult. And I think just anything that happens in that age range, the counties and the judges have this sort of subconscious thought of like, it's a lot more possible for a person to intentionally fake this, right? Where there's not nearly as much. It's very obvious when a person has dementia, and there's a lot of tests and medical professionals who can confirm it. And autism and Down syndrome when it's a very young child, it's not done purposefully, but I think there's a lot more of an expectation that it could be fake when it appears in an adult, and that's just an unfortunate thing with schizophrenia. We have similar problems with sometimes like bipolar or PTSD, which in some cases, if it's very extreme, could maybe lead to a need for protective supervision, but it's difficult to prove that the extreme behaviors that we describe to the social worker are actually a result of these impairments or illnesses.
Absolutely. Another thing too I wanted to bring up before I forget is I worked with somebody this actually for the last couple of years now, and it is somebody who has schizophrenia. They also have autism, but at their recent home assessment, we have since filed an appeal. Their social worker who came by, who was very kind, very friendly, no issues. They asked great questions. Towards the end of the assessment, they flat out said, "You can't get protective supervision for schizophrenia." And I asked, why? Right? Who says who? And the reasoning of the social worker was that something you had mentioned a minute ago, medication. They said, oh, well, schizophrenia is one of those things that can be dealt with through medication. And if he is at danger, he or she is in danger because of their mental illness, then they're not properly medicated. And I asked this person, oh, do you have a background in medicine? They said no. And I said, gotcha. So you don't know what the heck you're talking about. So
Obviously.
yeah, that was I forgot that happened several months ago, but all the more reason why it's difficult. Janet, we don't want to worry you. Again, if you have somebody who has schizophrenia and you feel like they would benefit greatly from protective supervision, it's worth pursuing. And so we would love to chat with you about that. Also, before I forget, we have a few people coming in and out on our YouTube channel right now watching this stream. We would love to grow our YouTube channel a little bit. So if you are right now watching on our YouTube this stream, please feel free to share it. The YouTube link, we'd love to try and grow our YouTube page. We've loved working with everybody here on Facebook. We hope to continue to grow it, but we'd also love to try and expand our reach a little bit on Facebook too. So, I'm sorry, YouTube, excuse me. All right, let's see, Dakota. I think we have a couple more questions here. Thank you, Tanya, for being here. Great questions. Alyssa, you said yes, second annual and second intake for foster children. So I think
that was, I remember that was the person who had 4 kids that had they didn't get their NOAs yet. And I was wondering why it was a new intake and an annual. She just explained that 2 of them already had it. 2 of them were getting it for the first time.
Gotcha. Okay. Hello, Miss Rosita. Stacy, how do I request a new social worker? Is that even possible? Previous one was not a good fit. 12 years as a parent provider, never had an issue until now. Annual is coming up. Thank you. We have some good news and some bad news for you, Stacy. So I can maybe answer.
I'm not even sure what the good news is, but you go ahead.
Well, good news is you absolutely can get a new social worker. The problem is it's usually at the discretion of the county and the availability of the social worker team. Can you request one because of them not being a good fit? It is kind of a yes, but. So you only can do that if the social worker is breaking the rules somehow or being discriminatory or acting in an inappropriate way. These are ways you can get a new worker into your home, or a language barrier. If you are requesting for translation, if you're in a big county like LA, San Francisco, Sacramento, usually they have a plethora of social workers who speak a variety of different languages. And so these can be one of the few ways you can get a new worker, but asking for a new worker simply because they might have been a little mean, the county sometimes will say, deal with it. And it is kind of unfortunate. But it's, I guess, to answer it, in conclusion, yes, you can get a new worker. There just has to be like a really good, valid reason for it. Dakota, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Well, I'd say you can always request it, but as you were saying, I think a lot of supervisors over at the county are not gonna be too keen to grant a request to change social worker just because you didn't like the person you had. Now, some supervisors, if it's a big enough deal, if you guys had like a whole big argument and blow up or whatever at your last assessment, then perhaps just to keep the peace, some supervisors might be willing to grant a change, at least if it's the first time you've ever had this problem. Especially as you mentioned, it was good for 12 years, and then all of a sudden, this new person, you have a big problem. Maybe they'll see that as that it really is just not a good fit, and maybe they'll grant it in that sense. But on the other hand, maybe the county is trying to put in some more hard-ass social workers to take
Dakota!
away, right? So, for lack of a better word. Yeah, for lack of a better term, yeah.
Beep! Sorry, folks.
Yeah. And so, right, maybe in that sense, it's, they want to create some strife. They want to put someone who's going to be really mean and stern to you to maybe take away some hours. It's possible, but I'd say you can always try, right?
Oh, I'd say it's more than possible, Dakota. I feel like conversations we've had where it was like a social worker was tasked to this case to make things miserable. Now, of course, those who watch our stream occasionally, we're not speaking about you. We're just speaking about a small percentage of social workers, right? However, definitely. I will say,
Sonoma County.
Yes, definitely not. Dakota, have you ever had to excuse a social worker from an assessment?
I don't think I've ever had to go that far. I think there have been times where I had to tell them something along the lines of, she already answered your question. She said this, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that worked well enough the few times that it's happened, but no, I don't think I've ever had to ask them to leave. Not quite.
Well, I think we can maybe leave it on this note, Stacy. And sorry, Stacy, I know we've been talking about your question for quite some time. To give you some empowerment here for you and anybody else who has IHSS, this is your assessment. This is your client's assessment, right? It's not the social worker's assessment. So if you feel like this person's not a good fit, you can always ask them to take the rest of the day off. If you're feeling uncomfortable at the assessment, they're being rude, or like Dakota said, they keep kind of badgering you with a question that you've answered before, you have every right to kind of stand up and advocate for yourself and advocate for your client in that moment, right? Because that's what we do. That's what we do as advocates when somebody asks for our help. I have had to request 2 social workers to leave the home of this family that I'm working with. It's very, very rare. Out of the hundreds and hundreds of assessments me and Dakota have done, I've had 2 times where I've had social workers say something completely inappropriate. You don't have to just sit there and be like, gosh, dang it, I guess I got a really bad social worker. You don't have to take that. That is absolutely a reason for you to say, you know what, this is not comfortable. I would like for you to leave. You have that power. Now, I'm not telling you to do that willy-nilly, all right? I don't want us to find out on Facebook that everybody's saying we're telling everybody to like kick their social workers out. But
Yeah.
You do have the ability to, again, kind of take control a little bit, answer what you feel you're comfortable answering, and take a stand. Dakota, do you have anything to add on that?
No, but I agree, and because we've talked about this, I think I did a little presentation about this last year, maybe, that this assessment, this person is being invited to your home. They are a guest in your home. Like, they're there to do a job, and you want them to complete their job, but they do need to respect you and respect this. This is your space, and if they're not going to go abide by your rules, I had someone who was medically needy, and they needed any guests to wear a mask because they had immune issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, their social was very rude about it, and almost was saying they were going to terminate the case if they weren't allowed inside the home, things like that. Do not let social workers walk over you like that, because they are being invited into your home, and if they are not going to do the things that you require within reason, of course, then you can ask them to leave, and if they're not willing to work with you in a way that works for you, then they'll have to send someone else. Anyway, I also saw we have quite a few more comments coming, so we should probably get through these pretty quick.
I agree. Dakota, I love the way you speak and say things so eloquently. All right, Miss Priscilla. And that was not sarcasm at all. I genuinely enjoy the way that you break things down. Priscilla, I have a daughter who is 24 years old. Don't have a conservatorship for her yet. How long does it take to get, and how much would it be? Well, a conservatorship can vary depending on who you hire, or if you do it yourself. You can do it yourself. It's a lot of paperwork. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. And so if you're going to hire an attorney, you're going to spend anywhere between $2,000 to $20,000 or more. It really just kind of depends. I'd say if it's kind of a straightforward thing where there's not a whole lot of controversy around it, it's pretty clear that this individual needs a conservatorship, you might be spending a couple $1,000, but it really, again, it depends on who you hire. I can't quote any attorney or paralegal who can take care of that for you. The process, we usually recommend starting at age 17 and a half. That gives you about 6 months to kind of work on the paperwork, get everything established. But it is usually something that will take a minimum of 3, 4, 5 months.
The impression I get is that the more, if there are a lot of family members or other close people that need to be informed and given a right to raise concerns at the conservatorship hearing, that increases the length of time that is needed.
And money.
Yeah.
All right. Rosita,
Bridge is supposed to say schizophrenia could be a part of autism. My 32-year-old autism boy has it, and medication helps a lot. Well, that kind of goes back to what you were saying about one of the difficulties of schizophrenia. If you don't also have autism as well, that for some people, the medication does help a lot, and it becomes a fairly rare occasion when they are putting themselves in danger, and that makes it difficult to get.
Totally. Now, can they manage the medications themselves? Because if they can't, for whatever reason, that may also be another reason why they might need protect supervision, right? There's a lot you can dissect there.
To this topic as well, said, I care for schizophrenia loved one. Medications don't cure, they help, and medications make the cognitive symptoms worse. My loved one has never been relieved of the voices / hallucinations. That's very true. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Tanya.
Oh.
All right, we got a big one. Saba, I have applied to Protect Supervision January 2025 and had the hearing this June. After the hearing, the judge declined the Protect Supervision, saying he is self-directed. I felt I could not highlight the problem and address my concern properly. Since the hearing happened, my son escaped from the house and had fruit basket stuck his head in it. I applied for a rehearing. I have a lot of new evidence to support that he is not self-directed. New IEP, few counts report. Should I ask for a new assessment? Or, sorry, the comment gets cut off.
Teresa has a, what does it say after I should apply for new assessments or
just go to the root of hearing.
Or just go to the root of hearing. Okay. So ask for new assessment or go through with the hearing, I suppose?
Or just go to hearing.
Just go to hearing, yeah.
Well, thank you for writing that, Saba. So you already had a hearing. It was the judge's decision denied protect supervision, stating that this individual is self-directed. I'm sorry to hear that. If you are within 30 days of the decision, you can file for a rehearing request, a reappeal. The likelihood of it getting, sorry?
It does say he did apply for rehearing. Probably has not gotten the response yet for that.
So that's another thing too, is people are getting, there's a delay on rehearing approvals right now as well. So normally it's a 30-day thing. So you have 30 days to request it. And then to my understanding, the state has 30 days to acknowledge the request. But right now I've talked to multiple people who requested a rehearing and it's taking a couple of months. In reality, Saba, rehearings are very, very, I'd say low percentage. The state, the judges who make these rulings are really good at dotting their I's and crossing their T's. The only way you can get a rehearing request is it's not necessarily based on the judge's opinion. The judge can have an opinion that's maybe totally wrong or totally, against what you're presenting, but you can't really get a rehearing approved just because the opinion may be wrong or different from yours. It has to be a clerical error or a procedural error by the judge. And so our recommendation, it's going to depend on your situation, but reapplying or asking for a new assessment, you've gathered more evidence. There's been an incident that's happened since the assessment. You have new information where you can request maybe a reassessment, right? But you're more than welcome to give us a call, Saba. We'd love to maybe help you out a little bit more on a personal note, provide some more detailed answers for you. Dakota, do you have anything to share on that one before we continue?
I would say that there's no need. There's, like you say, you already applied for a rehearing. And if you want to, let them know about the, the new instance that happened since then, it's worth a shot. Like Caleb was saying, it can be delayed, and it's very rare to actually get a rehearing approved. So I'd say if you get it, go ahead and go forward with it. Try again. But in the meantime, there's no reason why you can't necessarily do both, right? And ask for a reassessment while you're waiting on the rehearing decision. And if you get the rehearing and you have the reassessment coming up, it might be a lot to juggle, but it still is, the rehearing will always be, if you can get it, an option to get those hours going back. And it's probably worth a shot if you have some evidence to go with it.
I agree. All right, we have Cindy. Hello, my son is 5 with autism, ADHD, was just diagnosed with seizures. Can he now request more hours? He bangs his head from time to time, and he now has he's now on a seizure medication. Thanks. So
I'll take this one real quick.
Yeah,
the seizures. You can request more hours if the seizures cause more need. Right now, the seizure medication, if that's just taken orally at 5 years old, they probably won't give any extra time for that if it's just done the normal way. If there are any paramedical needs that go along with the seizures, that could be a reason to get more hours. In most circumstances, the seizures by themselves won't be a cause to get protective supervision. Sometimes, if the seizures cause the person to experience confusion afterwards, that could be a reason. But it's difficult to get it for seizures to get protective supervision. So it would really depend on if there are any other categories. I mean, at 5 years old, it's bowel and bladder care and dressing are the main ones. So, I would look into maybe paramedical services and, other than that, it's probably a somewhat limited what more you could get for seizures.
I agree. And Cindy, if you, again, want to connect with us, we might be able to help you out a little bit further. We can chat on the phone and see, what areas could be increased. Love to do that for you. All right, Dakota, speed round. Are you ready? And then we got to head out of here. Anna, since my son is starting school, can I work a part-time job while he is at school or start a daycare?
Sure. There's no parent-provider work requirements anymore. So if you want to work a job, as long as you are able to still do the provider, as long as you're still able to provide the services through IHSS, then you're fine. Even if your son has protective supervision, as long as someone is still supervising him throughout the day, it doesn't have to be. You can be a combination of people. Then you're fine to do that.
Agreed. Alma loves whatever Dakota did. I'm not sure what it was.
When my language got a little bit spicy. Yeah.
Spicy Dakota. Janet, my mom takes care of my 40-year-old brother with schizophrenia since he was 18 years old. I found out she was only receiving basic care hours. My brother takes meds, talks to himself, elopes often, unpredictably becomes aggressive towards himself or others. He has the cops call him often. Janet, thanks for sharing. I am sorry that is the case with your brother and your mom. We would love to try and help you out. It sounds like he could be a candidate for protective supervision, and it sounds like you might also have that assumption. So if you want some clarity or some closure there, that is something that Dakota and I specialize in. So we would be more than happy to chat with you if you ever want to call our office. Isabel, if the regional center changes the case manager since the client is 13 years old, does a new IPP have to be carried out? So the IPP is an annual type thing. So it's not necessarily based on the new worker. To my understanding, Dakota, did you have thoughts on that?
I mean, I think I was assuming the same thing. I think that the IPP will just be done on its schedule. I don't think they have to do one immediately when the worker changes.
Yeah,
it's a shared document for the whole agency, so they'll pass the case along. New person will receive the old IPP. I think, I don't think they'll just automatically do one because there's a new worker. I could be wrong.
Nope, I think you're right. Irene, how can we get approved for a personal assistant? PA, my 23-year-old daughter was denied for that service. So it's going to be based on your availability or their availability. And so every regional center can offer a PA. That's just a part of one of the services that every regional center has. The eligibility for it is going to be determined by your schedule or this person's schedule. So if they have room for a personal assistant, then they can. And so I'm sorry that they denied you. We'd love to take a look at that for you. You can call our office and speak with Vinaya. She's come on Facebook a couple of times. She'd be happy to break down how the PA works and how you can request it and possibly get it approved. All right, good speed round, Dakota. Cindy, thank you. And thank you to everybody who commented today. I think that's about it. We got about 5 minutes here before I assume Nicole's going on, yeah?
Yes, and we should get out of her way soon. Although Therese did have one more thing she wanted me to just mention to everyone. If there's anyone who is planning to call us or reach out, Teresa wanted me to just let everyone know that it does take a while for us to, when they call, it takes a while for people to get on on your calendar to become our client. And so if you've got a hearing coming up in 2 weeks, there's a good chance we won't we can't help people that fast. And so if you are going into this process, if there's something you think you might want to at least, not even to become our clients, but even just to talk to us about it, it's better to get on early on in the IHSS process before you've even had your assessment, before you've, all that, because it can take, I think we're 4 weeks or maybe longer before we can, for intakes.
It's a bit longer. However, peace of mind is coming. So I guess a small announcement. I am going to be transitioning a little bit in my day-to-day to where I can maybe manage intake a little bit more on a full-time basis. And so if you wanted to get on my calendar, I'm going to be sitting down with Nicole and the team, and we're going to talk about expanding the calendar a little bit so that the length of time from when you can get on will be shortened. So that is kind of coming down. It's in the works. But right now we are pretty far out. I would say multiple. I'll say multiple weeks. I'll say that. But very soon we should be able to open that up a little bit more. But please still call us, email us. You can write Teresa here on Facebook. Any questions that you guys have, we'd love to try and address them for you. And if it's a really urgent, pressing issue and you need to speak with somebody, we can figure something out. But with that said, Janet, Cheeto says hello. Thank you, Irene. Cheeto Puff. All right. Thank you, Saba. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. And thank you guys for all of the great questions. Shanta, our number is going to be listed on our page. Teresa can also pin it for you or post it here for you.
Comment it right now.
Okay, great. But with that said, we got to run. Thank you, Dakota, for teaming up with me again, as always, on my favorite topic of every month. I appreciate it.
The non-topic topic is the best one, really, because we get to just address what the people want to hear.
That's right.
The people. Right. I'm starting my bid to be a politician. You see, that's why I talk about the people.
That's right. Dakota would be one hard-ass politician.
We gotta get out of here. We're getting too crazy.
For those who came in late into the stream, Dakota was dropping cuss words like crazy at the beginning of this. You should rewatch this after it gets posted. I'm just kidding. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Happy Friday. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for sharing the stream here on Facebook and on YouTube. It also is a big help to us to try and grow our YouTube a little bit. If you have any more questions in the meantime, you are more than welcome to reach out to our office or connect with us here on Facebook. But with that said, thank you again, Dakota. I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.